Wasn't going to brew today, but I just found out I've got to go away for a couple of days and I need to get a batch of beer in. I've run out of time today to be chilling or anything, so it's going to be a no-chill. And there's been a lot of debate lately about no-chill beers and hoppy pale ales. I try to avoid doing no-chill hoppy pale ales, only because I like playing around with my late edition hops. And there is a difference. If you do like 15-minute ads, 10-minute ads, 5-minute ads, flame out, most people that no-chill will just throw them all in at the Whirlpool or even in the cube. I'm going to try a different method because I still won't get the same beer as I would if I did the 15, 10 and 5, but you can still get a great beer. But of course, if you're chucking them all in at once, it's different from your 5, your 10, your 15, you know. So anyway, we're going to give this one a shot. I haven't done this recipe before. It's using up bits and pieces I've got. I've had laying around. Last bit of grain, I didn't have enough ale malt, so it's nearly 2 kilo of ale malt and about 1.5 kilos of Vienna and 500 grams of oats. I just needed something to boost it up. And a little bit of dark crystal, 100 grams. Of course, I'll put the recipe up eventually. I'm going to try and mash around 65, a bit lower today than I usually do. The water's hot, the water's up to 69, it's pretty hot here, the grains had been about 20 degrees. So let's mash it in. I'm going to add the oats last. I'm going to sort of put them on top and stir them in the top half. I'm not sure why, I'm just choosing to do it that way. Because of the oats, I'm going to add rice hulls. And another reason is I've got to go and pick up the daughter from school in half an hour. And that takes me about half an hour. So the second half of the mash I'm not going to be around. I just want to try and make sure things go smoothly. Some rice hulls. I'll put some more in eventually. I might even mix some in with the grain. Right now. I'm going to turn it down to 65 now. It's been on 69. It's only going to be about 4.3% this beer. If it doesn't ferment right out, it'll probably be it's about 4%, which is exactly where I want it. Friday night beer where I can drink a dozen. I've used, I'd normally only use about 17 litres probably for this. I've used 18, again because I'm going to be leaving it. I want a fair bit of water in there. I have got both the screens in too, if anyone's wondering. Both the screens are in. Both the bottom ones, I mean. Well, that seems pretty good. Oats, quick oats. And for good luck, I'll throw in another handful of rice hulls. The oats are gumming it up already, but we'll be right.
That seems to be mixed in. Now I can't see any dough balls. Just see if how this pump is going to go. What the flow's like. I won't have it up full, I'll back it off a bit. If you can see that, it's probably half. Just going to let this settle for 5 minutes, give it a stir, and I'll put the top plate on. I'm going to put the top plate on today. As I said, I'm leaving it for about half an hour. I could just turn it off because you don't really need the pump going all the time. But I'm going to leave the pump on, probably a bit lower than that. And I'll have the top screen on and everything this time. It's 2:30 PM now. Pick up the daughter from school at 3. And be back by 3:30. And we should be just about done by then. That seems to be going okay already. Doesn't seem to be raising up fast. So I'm going to turn the pump off. Let's get this out of the way. Oops, so you just got to be careful. The juice was still in there. One of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of the cam lock, but anyway. I've tried the freezer job. I've just got that out of the freezer today and see if that's going to help me get it in here. It's actually still pretty bloody tight by the looks of it. Actually, I think it's grown in the freezer. What's going on? Maybe if I try and spin it around a bit, try and get it to fit better, stretch the pipe. Whoops, I'll take the rubber off first, don't I? Oh, it's nice and cold though. We're going in alright. Oh, it's starting to come off there. And that. I've got the pipe in the middle. Go down in a little bit of an angle. I think that'll be enough. Just to the level where the water is now. I'm going to push that down a bit. And I'll set the little thingamajiggy on there. Okay, it's still a bit high, isn't it? Over there. I wonder if I should push it down further. If it's going to be coming up there, there's not going to be much water down below. Anyway, that'll do. We've got it in. Where's the lid? There's the lid. Do this again. Chuck those back in. Oops, it could have been a bit longer, that hose. But anyway. Let's go. Turn the pump back on. Just make sure that pump's flowing. Sometimes you can get a little bit of, like you have to sort of turn it on again, then back it off again. And I don't know if you can see that or not. Probably about half again. Alright, I'll be back in an hour. Maybe a little bit longer if I'm late, but it should be about an hour. We'll see how we go. I might check on it just before I leave. I've still got about 15 minutes before I leave. Listen. Okay, I'm just about to leave to go and pick up the daughter. So it's been about 25 minutes. And it hasn't gone down the overflow. Still got a nice flow happening. It's hardly even raised up. That is really good. Means I'm getting a nice flow. So I wouldn't advise leaving it alone ever, and I shouldn't be doing that. I should probably turn the pump off, but I'm going to take the risk today. Okay, I've just got back. I haven't even had a look. Well, the wort's nice and clear on top, if you can see that. Still flowing, hasn't really moved, all it's done is cleared. That's good. Look at that, nice and clear. I'll turn the pump off. I'm hoping the hour's been enough for all the oats to do their thing. I was going to leave it a bit longer, but it's looking so clear and I'm in a bit of a hurry still, so let's just pull it out. I'm going to put this back on so when I'm sparging that it's going through the grain and not down the tube. Not that that's going to make a huge difference. Just turn this to make sure the handle's not going to hook onto the bars, which can happen. I've left it's up higher today because it's on a crate, but because I'm no chilling, I'm going to go straight into the cube, so I didn't want it on the ground level. This just makes it easy. You don't really need it, but stand on the thing. Oh, you hear that flow? That must be all the bloody rice hulls I used. Draining quite fast, so I'm actually going to turn it up to start to boil. In a bit of hurry because this sparge sounds like it needs to go in. This will be a fast sparge. I can hear how fast it's draining. I'm not going to have to pause for this. I'll just, by the time I put this 2 litres in, I'll be trying to put another one in by the sounds of it. Beer Smith's telling me 14 litres. Oats could hold a little bit more than that, than usual. Let's see how we go. There's nothing to see here because I've got the top screen in still, so you can't see anything anyway. That's it. I don't know if you can see. We might get there. I might have to add a bit more. I want to make sure I get the full 23 litres out today. I probably should have put the recipe to 24 litres just to make sure, but I didn't. So I want to make sure I'm right up to that 28, nearly 29, something like that. And maybe even higher. I did add another 500ml. I probably didn't need to. I'm not even sure it's come out. It'll be stuck in the porridge. But it looks like I've got my 29 litres anyway. Easily. There's a little bit more. There we go. So I could have probably added a little bit more just to make sure I'm going to get the amount out. Especially since I'm coming out the tap. I usually come out the pump and that drains everything out of there. The tap is not going to drain quite as much. I'll probably just tip it up at the end a little bit if I have to. So it's now 3:53. So that took about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 20 minutes. And we'll be coming up to the boil. And as you may have seen in other boils, just as we're coming up to the boil, I turn the pump up full until we get to the boil and just strain any bits of gunk that got through. Not 100% necessary, but for those that like no gunk in their wort, that's what I do. Slowly coming up to the boil. Took a little bit longer than usual because, as I said, my sparge water was a bit cooler than I usually do, but here we go. Now I do use firm cap, anti-foaming, and as you can see I don't really have to worry about it it overflowing. Still keep an eye on it. Now's the big test. I was aiming for 1037 for a final of 42, 1042. For this recipe, I did bump up my efficiency to 80% on Beersmith. So if I get it a bit lower, I just didn't want a big beer. I keep brewing them bigger than I usually want. Just want to try and make sure that it's staying a bit low. So hopefully I haven't overdone it. Just over 1036. What did I say, 1037? I'm happy with that. If I had it left it normally, I would have been about 2 points up on my normal, when you download. What I'm trying to say, if I hadn't adjusted my Beersmith profile to 80% instead of the 76, which it's usually at when you download it, I would have been over. As I've told you, I've explained why I do that before. And it's a simple 5 grams of Magnum. I nearly could have left out the 60-minute altogether and just went with the Whirlpool. I thought I'd put a little bit in. It's a no chill. I probably could put in like 3 or 4 grams at 40 minutes instead, but I'm not fussed. 5 grams of Magnum in at 60. There's no more additions. I might put in some Whirlpool and some yeast nutrient at 5 minutes to go. 5 or 10 minutes to go. Otherwise, there's no more hops until Whirlpool. By the way, this is a new print of these shirts, because everyone's seen mine, and then I had them on one of those other t-shirt shops, and I wasn't really satisfied with the print, so I thought I'd try another one. And this is on, what's it called? I just have to go and check the name of the site. Spreadshirt. It's a spread shirt, like spreadsheet, but with shirt. And there's one for .com.au for Aussies, and one .com for the US and on the other side of the world. And they're about $40 delivered, that is, in Australia. I don't know about for overseas. They're probably a bit cheaper overseas. But I think it hasn't got the back. I put a back on this, just says Cellar Dweller Home Brewing. I can, for some reason in the shop, it won't let me put the stuff on the back. I don't know why, but it won't. And when you go there, it allows you to edit the shirts, which is a bit weird. That's one of the things I don't like about it. You know, you make a shirt up to sell. Why should people want to edit it? But anyway, there's a whole heap of different ranges of shirts, t-shirts, tank tops and things, different colours. And it's, as I said, it's about $40. If you want this one with the writing on the back, it might be a little bit more. That's $40 delivered, of course. Because I think postage is about $7.50 in Australia. I can do it, but I'll have to do it, or you can write it on yourself. But if you want ones with it on the back, or you want me to organise it, let me know. And just search for Cellar Dweller on Spreadshirt, and this shirt will pop up. As I said, unless you want me to modify it. Look at this. The beer from hell has turned into the beer from heaven. Clear as a bell. Although as you'd expect, it's been in the keg for a while. Let me thumb on the other side of the glass. But look at that. Jeez. I've had to turn the light on. It's getting dark. Bloody winter. Okay, there's 5 minutes to go. It's foaming up a bit because of the Whirlpool I just chucked in. I'm going to take out this. This is 5 grams. Is whatever goodness was in these hops is in the wort, as I've always said. There's no point leaving that in anymore. It'll still continue isomerizing, or whatever you want to call it, because all the oil's in the wort. So we'll take this, and use that on there. That'll be for my Whirlpool hops. Okay, so that's time up. That means I'm just going to turn the elements off. Just going to get this out of the way. Grab my Big hop bag. 20 grams of Citra, 20 grams of Waimea in this one. Use whatever you like. Gonna stick that over there like that. I am going to put that hose in. Oh, hang on, I'll grab the lid. I'm going to stick that hose in. If you haven't got a system like this, you'd whirlpool and stir it for a little while. I'm going to turn the pump on for a little while just to make sure those hops get stirred up. I'll leave that go for a few minutes, then I'll turn it off. I'll probably let it sit for 5 or 10 minutes. I'll turn it on again, just for a couple of minutes, or not even a minute, probably a minute. Stir them up again, turn it off. After 20 minutes, it's going to go straight into the cube. Stir around, I'll put that on. And turn that pump off. That's not 100% necessary, it's going to be hot. 20 minutes. As I said, I'll turn the pump on again in 5 minutes. Give it a bit of stir up, let it stir it up again, and then I'll turn it off and let it all settle. Put in the cube. Okay, we're at the end. So we'll whack that on there. We'll get the cube, make sure as much star sand out as I could. I might throw the lid in the star sand while we're transferring. And we're at 88 degrees for those interested. It's probably a bit cooler up top than it is down the bottom because the elements are still warm. Anyone knows that use the chiller. It's hard to get it down past 30 down here because of the warm elements. And up here it'll be colder. Anyway, it's time for it to go in. So let's go. I probably could have used a bigger hose. This is a smaller hose. I just want to make a shout out to Swampy. I'm not going to say any more names just in case I don't want their names mentioned. I don't think they're YouTubers. This is, it's not the same, but it's inspired by one of Swampy's recipes. I think Swampy actually got it from Shannon, another guy that I know. I don't know him well, but he's an acquaintance. And he works at a brewery, or he's a good brewer. He's been brewing for years. And I'm pretty sure Swampy got the recipe through him. And as I said, mine's a bit different, but it's along the lines of it. Here's what I hope I didn't boil off too much. You can always squeeze the air out. It's very hot though. Be careful. Sometimes it's better to wear gloves and make sure you've got jeans on because you use your knees sometimes to squeeze the side up to put the lid on. Because the less air you have in there, the better. I mean, I've had beers and seen beers where they've had that much air in it, in a no-chill, and it's still been perfectly fine. Because, you know, the steam and the heat kills anything. But a lot of people will say no air, but you're going to end up with a little bit anyway. I didn't have to just then, but we're nearly there. Are we still coming out? I don't think I'll be getting a reading till put it in the fermenter by the looks of it. Oh, it's hot. Oh, there we go. That's what you try not to do. But we're full. And I always like to wash that wort away as much as you can. Unless you didn't muck up like I just did. Too busy concentrating on the video. And that just, you know, just helps. Nice and tight. Get it out of the pool I just made. Although most of that's star sand anyway. And then the old school way, once you got it in there, you roll it on the side. or even upside down. Make sure that so the lid's getting and the top's getting sanitized now from the hot wort, and maybe in a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes, you turn it up, because we already know all this bottom bit's going to be sanitized. Oh, it's very hot. And then you just leave it. There is some people that say that the lid gets loose as it cools. I've never come across that, to be honest. But, you know, there's no harm in when you turn it up, or, you know, come out and check it in an hour or two and just make sure the lid's tight. I haven't come across that. I've always found the lids have stayed tight. But, you know, better safe than sorry. Now, in the old days, you wouldn't try and fast chill it, because that destroys the, you know, you're putting the hot wort in to sanitize the cube. So you don't try and fast chill it, because that hasn't, you know, hasn't sanitized properly you know, over whatever it is, 80 degrees for 20 minutes to sanitize something. But since these days where we star sand them and we do all these other things, it's probably not quite as important. And it also, the other thing it does is if you're relying on that 20 minutes of heat, because, you know, when you no chill, you sometimes move your hops 20 minutes forward. Then if you fast chill it by throwing it in a pool or in the fridge, then you're messing with that time that you factored in already. So that's another thing. Well, this is a bit different because we've done the 20-minute steep and we haven't got any hops in the cube, and it's a little bit different. It's probably not quite as important, but there's something to think about. There's no point, you know, if you can blast fruit chill it now, there's no point, and you're gonna stuff up your hop additions. We will try and see if we can get enough for a reading. We don't need much. Let's see what's going to come out of this when I tip it up. Going to be a bit junky. Oh, there we go. Probably a bit too junky. Junky, probably the wrong word. But that'll. Oh, look, an NIPA. This might settle out a bit. I'll give it, 10-20 minutes, and it might settle out. We'll grab a little bit from the top. Although it's going to. Trouble is, you get evaporation, as I've explained before, and your reading will be out. So I should probably cover it, let it cool down a bit, let it settle, and then take a reading. Okay, we'll have a look. Oh, that's probably clear enough at the top. Settle it out. Has it cooled down? No, it's still a bit hot. That's the red beer. Oh yeah, it's cleared up. It's beautiful. That's the Red X 100%. Anyway. What did I say? 137 and 42 I was aiming for. I've come up a point. 43, nearly 44, is it? It's a bit hard to see me looking through the camera. So anyway, there you go. 43 I got. By that I could have lost, I could have went up from 42 to 43 through evaporation. But anyway, I'm around 42, 43. 42 was what I was after. So I'm happy with that. The next day, got my fermenter sanitized. What you can do, if you really want a clear beer, is you can use a siphon and leave whatever tube and stuff you've accidentally pulled in. There wouldn't be much in mine. There'd be a little bit from the fine bits of hop that get through the bag and some of the mesh at the bottom, etc. But there wouldn't be much. I'm just going to pour it in. I'm not going to siphon it. Just saying, you can. Now, I'm not going to lie and say it's easy sometimes to pour these in. Sometimes it's quite hard. The best way is to actually have the spout at the top, but that can get messy too, especially with these 23 litre ones. So there's 23 kilo of stuff there instead of the usual 16 or 17. So it's a little heavier than the other ones. I do like just to spray a bit of Star Scent around, although it might make it a bit slippery, but it can be handy to get a lid wrench too, which I haven't got. Oh shit, that's full. That is so full. This is going to be messy. There we go. Now I didn't worry about the splashing because that helps for a bit of put a bit of oxygen in the wort for the yeasties. I'm not going to bother aerating in any other way. This is dry yeast and 15 grams, which is plenty for a brew like this. That will be off in no time. And we're now at about day 6 of the ferment. I probably could have dry hopped yesterday, but I'm just going to use 42 grams of Citra because that's what I had left in that packet. So that's the beer there. It's cleared up nicely. It's probably been in the keg about a week and a half now, something like that. You can smell the Citra, of course. I'd actually made a mistake. Even though this was the first time me brewing the no-chill beer in this style, I was sort of copying one of my older pale ales, and I thought I'd used Citra, but I'd actually used Galaxy and Waimea. So of course this has got the Citra thing going on, especially with the dry hop I did. But it's very nice. It's like a, it's nice and thin, not too thin though, and it's dry. It's probably from the 64-65 mash I did. But if it had been the Galaxy, it would have been along the lines of a Pacific ale, although it's a little bit heavier. It hasn't got the wheat, and it's a little bit stronger in the flavours. But it's really nice. It turned out well. It does taste different to the beers I normally brew, not no chill. But in saying that, there's nothing at all wrong with this. It's very tasty. And I think the Aussies and the other people, Galaxy's pretty famous around the world these days, isn't it? Would really be nice with Galaxy instead of the Citra. The Waimea sort of sits there in the background, especially because I've only had it first with Galaxy and now with Citra. But I found once the beer aged a bit, the last version, and the Galaxy settled down a little bit and everything sort of mellowed out, that it did bring a nice quality to the beer. But anyway, as you can see, there's nothing wrong with the lacing or the head still hanging around. So, you know, the no chill for those naysayers hasn't affected any of that. It's a very pleasant drinking beer. Nice summer ale. Pity it's winter. Anyway, I say go ahead, give it a bash. If you're having issues with your hoppy pails, it's a bit on the thinner side. Shut up, bird. Bloody budgies. They're my usual pails. But the flavours there's a lot of hop flavour there, plenty. And you could go silly with the dry hop if you wanted to. But even cold, this has got a really nice aroma. That's a stupid photo of me. Anyway, cheers. I hope someone brews it and enjoys it. And change the hops up, change the recipe up, but just use the same sort of method. And I think you'll be quite happy. Cheers.